So I'm only going to be using a little bit of melt and pour for each phase of this particular project. So there's just a cube of melt and pour. I get it in big cubes and then I cut them up into this size because that's a usable size for me, and it melts quickly. So I'm going to zap this in the microwave for 30 seconds and come back. Actually, it's a small amount, so I'll probably just zap it for 20 seconds. So 20 seconds and it's perfect. Didn't scorch the soap at all. It's something you don't want to do. And I don't want it too hot anyway because I want to cool it off to about maybe 120 degrees. In the meantime, I'm going to get my mica ready. Using really red mica from Nurture Soap. And so I just have a little bit of alcohol in this bowl. I don't need really much red for that much soap. Just stir that up. I don't want it to clump in the melt and pour. Just add that. That was just a little bit, maybe less than a quarter teaspoon of that in this, and you can see how red that made it. I already have some pink that's gotten a little hard, so I'm going to zap that a little. So the key here is temperature, timing, how you pour. There's a lot of things that I think are more complex about melt and pour than cold process. The timing is more crucial for sure. So much so that that's one of the reasons why I don't do many videos on melt and pour. It's because there's so many steps in temperature and things for me to pay attention to. If I worry about the camera, I generally make a mistake. So one of the things that I'm aware of is that if the temperature is not right and I combine different colors, they blend rather than keep their separate color identities, or I forget to spray the alcohol and the layers don't stick. Lots of things that I can curse about when it doesn't work out. So I'm only doing this because we're friends, right? Pop some bubbles, some alcohol. This also cools it down a little more quickly, especially if it's a small amount of melt and pour. So I don't want any skin to develop as the surface cools more quickly than the bulk of the soap. So I really want to keep stirring it because that little skin will not ensure a smooth pour, and that would not be good. So I'm going to take the temp. That's 135. That's 127. So I'm going to want this one to cool off more quickly. I'm going to aim for 120. And at 120, it's cool, but it also forms that skin on top pretty quickly. So I'm just going to make a thin layer on the bottom of this mold. I'm going to spray it. It can be tricky, so let me see what happens with this. A lot of this is experimentation too. So that's going to work, okay. That, as long as it leaves a trace of color showing and doesn't blend with the other color, I'm good. If I had my way, I wouldn't have made such a big puddle of red. That biggest puddle I could do without, but can't reverse that. Okay, now before this gets too hard, I have this little tool and I'm just gonna move it around a bit. Okay, we'll let that cool. So there's some kind of pattern there. I know it looks kind of horrible right now, but it's going to work. I might even be able to plane that skin on top. So let me move this aside carefully. And now I'm going to get ready for another 2 colors. So I'll be right back. So I just zapped a little bit of melt and pour here. And I have some titanium dioxide. Just a little bit of that. Mix that one with oil and some distilled water. And the reason for the oil is if you just use titanium dioxide with water, sometimes in melt and pour, it gets very crumbly. Let me get this one melted. Here's my bigger amount of melt and pour. I'm going to combine some of this electric blue mica that I mixed in a little alcohol. It's pretty bright, just for a little bit of mica. Don't overdo the mica, you'll just waste your mica that way. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I have another container ready. Silicone mold. I'm going to pour all this blue in. Such a great color. Before that forms the skin, I'm going to drop some white in there. And I'm going to give that a little bit of a swirl. And I find that if this was a warm day, that I would have more time to work. I don't want to play with that anymore. So that's going to be good. I might try one more thing. I'll just zap my blue a little bit. If I can get a little drop of blue in the white, I'll be very happy. Okay, so that's good. We'll let that cool. A couple people asked for this demo and I resisted because it's plenty to just be patient and do this without having to turn the camera on and off and go to the microwave, rinse things off. Okay, how's this doing? Let me take the temperature. 139. It's a small amount, so it'll cool pretty quickly. And it's part of it, I don't care because it's not going to mix that much. So let me just pour this. And the other thing spraying does is it helps the soap layers to spread. It breaks the surface tension so it'll move about more. I think this one could use a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, let's put that aside. Okay, and this one is going to be a red center. I think I'll make half of them red centers. That spray. And the rest is going to be orange. I'm going to spray again just to cool that off. Spray my orange too. Again, taking time out to cool this off. The rest I'm going to make orange centers. Okay, I'm going to zap the red again. That was literally just maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Spray the orange. Give that another spray. Okay, now let everything cool down. Okay, I have another one of these. These are really handy. I've got 4 of those. So the other ones are cooling. I can still make some more embeds. Here's some yellow I mixed up. The same way I melted and poured the other ones. So I'll get that all in there. Give that a spray. This time I really do want to try to get some red dots, so I'm going to use this dropper. Have more control that way. Okay, that's much better. And let this cool. Spray that. So I want to make some leaves for this design too. I wanted a dark green, and I don't really have a mica that's any darker green than that, so I'm going to use some of my activated charcoal, just a little bit at a time until I get the green that I want. Just a little darker. That should be good. Gotta really watch out with black paint or activated charcoal. It really does the job with just a little bit. Okay, I could have used a bright green, but I want a little more contrast to show off the brightness of the other colors. I only have this one silicone mat that I got at Michael's, so I'm gonna have to unmold them and do it several times. This is where the alcohol comes in handy. It helps fill up that mold. There's only 3 leaves in this. So instead of heating up my yellow as well, I decided to take a little bit of what kind of hardened in my measuring cup that I originally melted the yellow in, and I just made a ball of that, and I'll pour this hot melt and pour over that. Oh, there's one little tiny flower there. Okay, so I'm going to unmold this red and pink one. It comes out easily. It's just so thin I can't grab the end of it. Oh, come on. There we go. So there's this one with the little wrinkles on it, but I'm not worried about that. There's my blue and white one. I like that you can see through it. Well, it's not transparent, but it's translucent. And while I'm waiting for this one to cool off a little more, I like how that one turned out, I'm going to do my cutouts with these pastry cutters. I don't know. So I can get a lot out of these even if it doesn't have that perfect little center to it, which pops out. But this is still good. I just wanted some... oh, so I just realized that I didn't spray that layer before I put those drops on it. So notice they just peel away. So make sure you spray between. I probably would not have made that mistake if I wasn't videotaping too. I do this every time when I videotape. So it takes a lot of concentration. There's on my other little dot. I'll just eat those. No, I'm just kidding. Don't eat your soap. That one's stuck. That one's nice. As long as it has white in it, I'm going to use it. And let's get this red in there. I'm going to plane this first. I'll be right back. The next thing I'm going to do is unmold these little flowers. I think I can use these just as they are, even though I had another idea at first. I think this will work. Silicone's so easy to work with. That's already. Let's see how the orange ones came out. The orange and red just came out nice. And I've been collecting these little molds since I started soaping. And I think these ones are from IKEA. These cutters I inherited, and they're pretty old, so can't tell you where you can get those. The bakers in the group out there probably can chime in and leave a comment down below where you can find those things. Give you a good look again. Here are the leaves from this mold. They will cool down pretty quickly, so I can make a bunch of these. Oh, that came out great. Let's see that little baby one. Okay, so I'll make more of these. You don't need to see that. And I'll come back and maybe I'll be ready to assemble all this. Okay, you see all these scraps? They're not going to go to waste because I needed more yellow. So I'm just going to melt that down and fill some more molds. I'm going to do the same thing with this reddish paint too. So here's the soap that I planed off the rough edges of that other soap that I just showed you. And I'll melt this down also. Okay, so my next step is to just put some of these melt and pour pieces that I've been making and putting them face down in these oval silicone molds. Trying to make sure that I have a variety of colors in there and that the multicolored side is facing downward. So I'm going to keep doing that. Making sure I have one of these dark leaves in there too in the background as an accent. So all the rules of color still apply. So make sure you have a little time set aside to do this. I don't get that time very often, but I did today. So I'm going to make sure that I spray this thoroughly with alcohol, otherwise the whole thing won't stick together. And I'll wait a little bit too, because I've learned that the alcohol can kind of seep between the pieces a little bit, so they all stick together. In the meantime, I've melted some melt and pour, and I want it pretty clear, and I just added a little bit of blue because I would rather the clear part be blue than yellow, and this takes the yellow away. This is for the very reason that we've talked about complementary colors, as it neutralizes the opposite color. So purple is the opposite, but blue does the trick and it looks a little better. So this is $141, so I can continue to stir this. I'll get this to temperature and bring you right back. So I just got finished pouring some of this clear melt and pour over my colorful embeds, and then I'll have to unmold these and make 4 more, because I want 1 for each of the 11 bars. So I'll bring you back for unmolding. Okay, let me unmold these. There we go. Just never know if they're gonna turn out good, but I like how they turned out. They're a bit thick, so I may have to cut them a little bit. But I wanted to show you the inspiration for this. Is this, I think they pronounce it millefiori, which means, many flowers. And they do this with glass rods. It's a painstakingly lengthy process. So, but the result is great. I got this in Murano, island off Venice. And I saw this and I thought, that's beautiful. So now I'm going to use it as inspiration.